Welcome to Fatherhood for the Rest of Us with Brandon Handley. Because you're already great at everything else, why not fatherhood too?
Hey there, and welcome to Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. This is Brandon Handley. I am the creator and founder of Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. I want to say thank you for choosing to spend your time with me today on Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. I also want to just encourage you, if you could, to go over to the podcast on iTunes, download it, subscribe to it, and leave a review if you have found any part of this at all to have an impact on your life. That will help others to find the show and listen to it and get the same type of enjoyment that you are out of it. Also, if you are a father and if you're looking for a place that you can go celebrate fatherhood or perhaps even share some struggles and get some advice or find some like-minded men, I strongly encourage you to stumble on over to Fatherhood for the Rest of Us, the private Facebook group, and ask to join. I'll let you right in. That's going to do it for right now, guys. And please stay tuned for today's podcast.
All right, brother. Well, thank you for joining me today, Alex Benson. We are here today with Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. We are... What kind of awesome things you got going on, brother? What's going on? What's going on with you?
Hey guys, I've been in the group for a little bit. I'm not as active as I should be. So if you don't know me, I'm Alex Benson. Brandon joined me for an interview on my podcast, 7 Mile Man. We are 11 episodes in now, and I've had some awesome guests, including Brandon, and excited about everything that's going on with that and continuing to grow that. And currently, I'm working on my side gig here where I take on rental houses and get them all emptied out, cleaned up, fixed up, painted, all that stuff. So I've got a nice space. Normally I've got the kids running around somewhere at this time of night and the wife's with them. And so I've got some quiet here, but 7 Mile Man has actually launched a challenge for this week. It's 7 days of service. So it's 7 Mile Man service. And each day we're trying to impact a different group of people. So that's something new that we've got going on. Today was impact the elderly. Yesterday was impact the veteran. And the day before was impact the homeless community. So got 4 more days left of that. And we're going to try to get as many people to join us in that and doing something for, different aspects of the community, the elderly, the homeless, veterans, your family, just the community at large and whatever. So if you guys want to check that out too, I'd love for as many people as possible to join us on that. So,
and where can they join you at, Alex?
They can go to my personal page. They can also go to the 7 Mile Man page on Facebook, and I'm posting each morning at about 8:30 Eastern time what the task is for the day, and we're looking for people. It's also on Instagram as well at 7 Mile Man, and we're looking for people to hashtag 7 Mile Man service and tag at 7 Mile Man. Let us know what you did for the day and your thoughts on how service impacts others.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I really enjoy that you're doing that. What gave you that idea?
Honestly, my wife was kind of behind all of that. I was thinking about something to do for the Christmas holiday over the holidays here. Something that really went along with what 7 Mile Man is about. We're about growing men to be better fathers, better husbands, better members of the community, business owners. But our focus is on doing that through service to others. And, because I truly believe that serving other people is the best way to serve yourself, because it helps to grow you in different aspects. And so our focus is, as Jesus's focus was to serve other people. And that's kind of where the name 7 Mile Man came from. You and I talked about that a little bit when you were on the podcast. It's a nod to Jesus's walk to Emmaus after his resurrection, where he went 7 miles in the wrong direction when he was supposed to be headed to Jerusalem to reveal himself to 40,000. He went 7 miles in the wrong direction to reveal himself to just 2 people. So the idea is to go out of your way to serve other people and growing yourself through that.
Right on. And so the podcast and the 7 Mile Man is also doing the same thing. It is you're growing yourself through service. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Um, what brought on, why start that up? What even, inspired that for yourself? I mean, you're a busy man, right? You got how many kids? 27, 13,
Yeah. But yeah,
33?
27. Yeah. No. Four kids altogether. It
Right.
is 9, 6, 4, and 19 months are
Mm,
the children. That's how they all break down. Two girls and then two
right.
boys in order there. So the oldest to youngest in order there. And I work during the day with my father-in-law doing plumbing, heating, cooling, stuff like that, minor repairs. My wife does web design, marketing, and all things social media as well. And she and I went out to Meltdown in the Desert. And something I had really been looking to do was to really find what I felt was my purpose in life and my reason behind wanting to better myself, and the journey that I've been on for personal improvement. And through that experience out in Meltdown in the Desert, I just had it on me. Ryan Mickler talked about, if you guys don't know Ryan Mickler, check him out. But Ryan Mickler talked about it's our duty, it's our responsibility to share of ourselves, because there's something in each and every one of our stories that could be of service to somebody else. And it's selfish of us not to share of ourselves. And
Right.
so it all kind of grew out of that. My desire to find what my purpose was, my desire to continue to grow myself, to personally develop myself, to make myself better, and share my journey along the way, and share the network of people that I've connected with, to be of service to somebody else, to share whatever it is that needs to be shared that reaches that person, that helps them improve themselves.
Right on. That's great. And your wife and your children are supportive of all this?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, my wife's awesome. She built my website for me. She's the one that edits my podcast for me. She puts them up online. She helps me with my social media marketing strategies, to help grow. Now all I have to do is really listen to her a little bit better, and things things will, execute on the things that she's, let me know about how I should work things. I don't know if anybody knows what Blueprint certification is. It's basically it's Facebook's Facebook business certification. She's just about finished her Blueprint certification, so she fully understands the in and outs of how Facebook works, the algorithms, all of that, to help grow your business or your marketing platform, your social media platform, in a way that is organic, using the tips and tricks that Facebook has. She actually was invited to speak for a Facebook business event here locally as well. So,
Oh, wow. That's great, man. Yeah.
yeah, she's
That's handy to
definitely
have on your
supportive,
side.
because she knows. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She charges a whole lot more to other people than she does to me. Yeah.
Well,
I got to do
I mean,
laundry and dishes and
right now, I think
kids.
that's she got you pretty deep, man. She got you pretty deep. So, um, what would you say? What have you learned so far, man, about this journey that you're on? What are you learning?
It's the personal development journey for me, if that's what you're speaking about. That started for me about 4 years back now, really, where after my divorce to my previous wife, really kind of, it took a little bit to snap out of all of that. I held on to a lot of anger surrounding that. I hung on to a lot of hurt surrounding that, and actually to the aspect of service, it was through starting working as in training to be a firefighter, which goes to service, serving others, serving your community, that I really started my journey of self-improvement. I really wanted to do something that I felt was making an impact on my community. And it also got my butt into gear to get myself into shape. I was 280 pounds, and I lost 60 pounds. I got down to 220 pounds. And
Nice.
that was kind of
Congratulations.
the start of everything. But working on getting some of that back down. But yeah, that was kind of where it started. And it was all this journey of personal improvement, seeking, more information about, I don't know, I guess hacking life, if you will, hacking your mind to change your mindset to a positive mindset and, manifesting things into your life. I listened to a lot of Jim Rohn, Les Brown when I got started. I love listening to Jim Quick. You and I think talked about Jim Quick, and just went on this mission of, all right, what can I do to improve myself? How can I make myself better, so that I can better serve my family, so I can better serve my wife and my children, so I can better serve my community? What things can I do to do that? And that's where it really started for me. It was really about 4 years ago, and made a lot of positive changes in my life. I don't drink anymore. I used to use marijuana and other drugs when I was younger, and I stay away from those things as well, and don't do those anymore. And just really try to be intentional about living. Really focus on having a purpose behind what it is that I'm doing, and being very intentional with my children, being very intentional with my wife, being very intentional about all aspects of my life, because I don't want to go back to where I was.
When what would you say, like, some of the specific, like, your intentional, what are your current intents, right? What is your purpose? Have you discerned what your purpose is entirely, or are you kind of just going on this journey and following your heart at this point?
Sure. Yeah. As far as purpose goes, I think everyone does have a purpose. And I think that with purpose, our purpose changes as our circumstances change and as our focuses change. But at this current time, I really believe that my purpose is to just share the experiences that I've gone through, share some of the things that I've found, share my network of people that I've connected with, and just my beliefs and my opinions. And, one of the things you and I talked about is that one of the goals of 7 Mile Man is to help people to find something that they can hold themselves more accountable to. I believe in God. I believe, I'm a Christian, and I believe that until we find a way to put our trust and our faith in things other than what we know and understand, people and what we can see, and, those types of things, that we can't be our best selves. Because if we're only holding ourselves accountable to another person or ourselves, there isn't really a level of accountability there that I think allows us to fully grow.
So you're not saying, like, it doesn't have to be like Jesus, doesn't have to be Christianity. It could be any type of, like, higher power or something else that you strive towards. Is that how I'm hearing it?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I strive towards. And for me, I'm not one to take the Bible and shove it down people's throats and say, well, this is the only way, and this is the way you have to do things, and if you don't, you're wrong. I've said it before. I could be dead wrong, but this is what I choose to believe. This is what I choose to put my faith and my trust in, and I challenge people to find something more than themselves, more than another person, to do the same with.
Right on. No, that's a great challenge. I think to, if I were to kind of rephrase that too, I would say, just challenge them to work towards the greater good, for
Yeah.
all, right? Something like that. And I think that's a great, something to go towards, right? And something to challenge other men, other humans to go towards. I think that's great. What, with the kids being all part of it, I'm just kind of curious what their interaction and their response has been. And I asked this because I've been doing Fatherhood for the Rest of Us for about a year now, and my boys love it. They always they're always like, hey, Dad, when we're at school, do you do Fatherhood for the Rest of Us? Or, like, they're like, hey, you talking to him for Fatherhood for the Rest of Us? And I really get a charge out of the fact that it's almost like they think it's my job now versus some of the other work that I would do. And I love that because I feel like it gives them an opportunity to see somebody else going for their dream or their vision. Do you see yourself as inspiring your children in that way?
Yeah, you know, and I hope that I do inspire my children in that way. You know, my wife and I both, you know, have our own things that we do. My wife's business, she works from home, so the kids listen to my podcast as she's editing the podcast. So they hear my podcast all the time. You know, they know I'm going to get a couple episodes from home, so they've been home while I'm doing it, so they know, you know, they know what I'm up to. They see what I'm doing, you know, and the lessons that I share about, you know, personal accountability and taking responsibility for your actions and things like that. They're all things that I work on with my kids. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're involved in what we're doing. They know what we're doing, and we encourage them to chase after whatever it is that they want to chase after. Whatever it is that's their aspiration, you know, with getting to see my wife do what she does on a daily basis. She homeschools them.
Okay.
So getting to see what my wife does on a daily basis, getting to see what she and I are working on. You know, I don't know how many 6-year-olds you hear talk about, well, I want to be a doctor and own my own hospital. And, you know, and also on the side, I want to do, you know, this other, you know, I also want to be a gymnast and, you know, just high aspirations, you know, instead of this like, well, I want to be a superhero, you know what I mean? I want to be Batman or, you know, you know, whatever it is, they all have, you know, these high aspirations. And I'd like to think that's because they see that, you know, my wife and I truly believe that whatever it is that you put your mind to, whatever it is that you decide that you want to do, if you're willing to put in the work, you can go out there and you can have it.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you know, putting in the work and not being afraid to use your voice the way you are with the podcast, you know, hopping on here, doing the challenge that you're doing now. I think it's really great. What have you had people reaching out to you talking about the impact that you're having on them?
You know, every once in a while, I'll get some messages, and it's funny because it's generally from people from my hometown is who I hear most from, or people from college that, you know, I'm general acquaintances with and stuff like that. And it's funny to hear that kind of stuff, because, you know, I don't think of myself as anyone special, that's for sure. And I think that's kind of the point behind what I'm doing is you don't have to be someone special to share of yourself and to give of yourself and to help to inspire and motivate anyone. I mean, I'm no different than any person out there. You know, we have our struggles, we have our hardships that we go through as well. And but my whole point is to just share who I am. So it's kind of funny sometimes to get a message from people, and I don't know if you've experienced the same thing, but for you, isn't it generally someone that you don't ever see actually liking your posts or commenting on your posts?
No, I mean, it's weird. Like, I haven't had too many people reach out recently, but like anytime I have a conversation with somebody, they're like, "Hey, we love what you're doing. We need more of this out there." Or I'll talk to actually people, my neighbor, you know, listened in, and I had no idea that they'd been listening and stopped by and talked to me and said, "Hey, man, it's awesome what you're doing." And I would have never expected him to be tuning in. So I guess, you know, it's not, it doesn't always tend to be who you're expecting, if that's the
Right.
question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I mean, some of the people that have really reached out to me are kids, you know, people I went to high school with and was, you know, somewhat of an acquaintance with them and knew who they were and what they are, but it wasn't someone that I saw like interacting with me or engaging with me on Facebook. It was just this, you know, this message about, you know, this long, like, man, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. I love watching your videos and we need more of this. And, you know, and it's cool, man. It's a cool feeling because when you know that you've impacted someone, you know, we all get that little dopamine high from, you know, hearing that, like, hey, you've impacted me in this way.
Sure.
It's a definite
But I mean,
psychological reaction.
sure, but I think that it goes beyond that. If you ask me, it's not. It, it it's not just do you get this high because somebody's applauding your song and dance. It's you get this high because your efforts to help others are being validated,
Oh, for sure.
or the service that you're putting out there is rendering somebody else's life better. That's
Yeah.
real improper grammar, I'm sure, because it came out of my mouth like a ton of rocks. But the deal is that even if it's like even if we're doing it for that high, it ends up being for a good purpose and or reason versus I'd rather go out, do what I'm doing now, try to help other people out just to get one or two thumbs up and likes versus going and snort a line of cocaine, Alex. You know what I mean? Because to me, it's a better high to get a couple thumbs and likes just to say, hey, man, I'm trying to help the world out. And if somebody comes up and says, man, you know what, you're doing great work, and that makes me feel good, well, that's a good way to go if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I don't think I phrased it the way that I should have. I will talk about that dopamine high. That's that. Those likes and comments and things like that. Sorry about that. My phone was getting sleepy there. Those likes and comments and stuff like that are all they're nice and stuff like that. But for me, knowing that what I've done or said has helped someone in some way, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
that's all I really hear. And like you were saying, I don't care if it's one person. If it's one person, if all I ever help is one person by something that I say or something that I did, if all I ever help is one person, that's fantastic. I'm happy.
Alex, I'm not gonna lie, I'm beyond one person now. Yeah, I guess I'm getting greedy.
Right? Hey, yeah.
I guess I'm getting greedy.
Right.
and just because, and I think that the first person I helped was myself.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The first reaction I had, where I realized that my life was changing, was a moment where my son Finnegan came into the room, asked me to do something with him, and he started to walk away. He goes, no, I know, not right now because you're busy. And I was like, nah, dude, that's what happening now. That's a good question though too, man. Do you
Right.
are you seeing, are you able to pinpoint kind of like this the space of like, here's the man you intend to be, here's the intentional man that you're getting to be, here's the walk that you're taking to get there. Do you see yourself catching up to yourself? Do you see yourself joining up with yourself and walking along? Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think the point that you just made about, oh, I'm sorry, Dad, I know not right now, you're busy. I think that point you just made, I've certainly seen moments like that where, when I talk about being intentional with my children is making sure that I'm giving them the time that they deserve, and just grabbing my charger here, my phone's getting tired. Giving them the time that they deserve and the attention that they deserve. And so when I have those moments, kind of like you just said there, in my case, it's like I'm thinking about how I'm speaking to each of my children and how I do, discipline, for example. Each child's going to respond differently to different types of discipline, different types of approaching discipline. And so when I find myself starting to take the wrong approach, and I freeze in that moment and say, hold on a second, let me be intentional. So I think your point of saying, like, are you catching up with yourself? Yeah, because I'm not everything that I want to be.
Yeah.
And when I find that moment of like, hey, wait a minute, stop, I can do this better. I can do this better. That's that moment.
A lot of people, they're like, hey, all you do is you post like the highlights of your life or the highlights of your day on Facebook or and all this other stuff. But the other thing is that I believe is that, well, I believe that even you are probably doing something similar where you say, my video must match my audio so that I can be congruent, I can be honest, and I don't have to feel like I'm lying at the end of the night. Am I right with that?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So whatever it is,
Um,
you feel like you're saying, even on Facebook or at the end of the day, is who you intend on being. That's like your intent on being that person. It's not like I just want to be, I want everybody to be like me and I want people to live my life. This is the person that you intend to be. And maybe there's some days that you're not 100% that person, but the next day, like, no, I gotta fix this one part because this is who I said I am. And now I need to align myself with what I'm telling people. Do you find that to be true for yourself? Because I find that to be true for me.
yeah, absolutely. You know, and to that point of like, oh, well, you're only posting the highlights of your life or whatever on Facebook. You know, I don't think that's true. You know, I share some of my failures and stuff like that from time to time. But the whole thing about some of the things that I don't share about myself on Facebook and personal things on Facebook is that there are times when the negative something that I'm going through doesn't serve the purpose of serving other people.
Yeah.
Sharing in a negative experience that I'm going through isn't something that needs to necessarily be shared with other people until it's been rectified, until I've fixed that situation. So, and then I'll go back and I'll talk about, hey, this was what was going on, and this is where I was at, this is where I was, and you know, so it's not a like I'm trying to hide anything on there, but I try to keep things very positive on Facebook. You know, I think that we have struggles with, you know, our children, with our spouses and things like that. And, you know, if I have an argument with my wife and I share it on Facebook, like what purpose does that serve?
No, you're right. You're right.
You know, that kind of stuff isn't meant to, you know, spread positivity and it doesn't help grow, anybody. And it certainly doesn't help grow my relationship with my wife.
No, understood there. That's the one thing that I enjoy about the private father, like my group, Fatherhood for the Rest of Us, or Code of Character, or you know, I believe Ryan's group is also private, where it can act as a sounding board. So if you're going through something that while you don't share it, you sometimes seek help or advice. Those groups are really beneficial, I believe, because you got a lot of other men who are going through something similar to yourself, and sometimes just simply voicing it makes it go away. But it,
Sure.
you're not doing that when you make a request for help. It's different than making just a random complaint saying my wife doesn't know how to fold my clothes the way I'd like her to. So, right? You know what I mean? That's not helping anybody.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother.
Right. That's not helping anybody here. You know, my wife's mad because she said I don't do the dishes and blah. No, that doesn't help anybody whatsoever. And in Fatherhood for the Rest of Us, you know, I shared, you know, a struggle I have with one of my children, but I didn't share it as a poor me and, you know, anybody else have this problem, any advice. It was, hey, this is one of the things that, you know, I struggle with, and I want to encourage anybody else who struggles with something like this to keep trying, keep moving forward, keep trying new things, different ways of approaching approaching this. And I think that's the way to share your struggles with other people, is in a way of, hey, this is something that we struggle with, but this is the way that I approach it. You know, and approaching your struggle with intention and not giving up on, you know, I could say, you know what, this is the way it's going to be, and that's the way it's going to be, and just is what it is. Or I could continue to try different things, continue to research different options, and try to fix it.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about that. Men are fixers.
Yeah, we got a problem. I mean, it's in our blood, bones, DNA, man. I don't know what it is. It's like we said too, like, if we're having a conversation, or that's what I love about fatherhood for the rest of us. That's what I love about men's groups is like, there's somebody sitting on the other end. If you post like, hey, I'm having this issue, somebody's like, just like, oh, I gotta tell them. If I don't tell them, I'm gonna burst. I'm gonna die. You know what I mean? They've got to let you know. Men have to give their input. It's so difficult not to. And you even double down as a father, right? You watch your own children trying to struggle with something, and you're like, oh, I gotta help them. They're not doing it. They're not doing it the right way. And sometimes that can be difficult.
Yeah,
A
I
lot of
mean,
times,
definitely.
it's great just to watch somebody else and how they work it out too. And while it's difficult, because sometimes, again with our children too, sometimes they go and they figure something out and they work it out in a way that we would not have anticipated, and we get the opportunity to learn something.
Sure, absolutely. And and one of the things about that, as far as fixing things for our children, I think too often parents try to fix everything for their kids. And what my wife and I do, and we're very intentional about it, is giving our children the tools to fix it themselves.
Right.
I can tell you my tips. I can tell you the things that you might want to try or whatever. And here's a tool. But it's up to our kids to figure out how to use those tools or figure out how to use their own tools. But
Sure.
I can't bring myself to just fix everything for my kids because they'll never figure it out on their own if I do that.
Sure.
As they get older and they approach different situations, when I'm 90, is my 50-year-old kid or my 60-year-old kid going to be calling me? I guess, well, that's not true. My kids wouldn't be that young anyways. When I'm 90 and my kids are 70, are they going to call me and ask me how they should handle this situation? No way. And that's why we're very intentional about giving our kids all of the tools that they need to solve problems between themselves. Kids argue and kids bicker. And basically we teach them about relationships. And one of my favorite examples, and I know are you reading right now? You're reading 7 Habits of the Highly Effective Person. Isn't that one of the books you're reading currently?
No.
Okay.
But that's a Stephen Covey book, isn't it?
That's Stephen Covey. You know who's reading that right now? I think is Frank Sell is reading Stephen Covey's book.
Okay.
But the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the things that Stephen Covey does is break down relationships, any relationship, as a bank account. And so we teach that to our children. There are positive interactions, which are deposits. There are negative interactions, which are withdrawals. And so, I can check on my kids, my oldest especially. I can check her with something and say, hey, you're making a withdrawal right now, and you better figure out how to make some deposits here coming forward, because once your account reaches negative, you're going to have a hard time bringing it back into the positive.
Sure.
And
Sure.
yeah, that's one of the tools that I try to use with them.
Excellent. No, that's a good tool. It's a good tool. Now, brother, let's just real quick. I want to give a shout out to most of the people who probably are going to listen to this after the holidays. So if they want to go catch up on how like the 7-mile, 7-day service thing worked, where will they be able to see that? Again, are you going to have like just kind of like how that all played out up on your webpage?
What's going to be is on Facebook. I'm sorry, on Instagram. If they check out hashtag 7MileMan service, you can see all the posts that are related to that. That's a great point. I might actually have to go in and look and see. Honestly, right now I haven't gotten a whole lot of engagement. So I'm hoping that people are going to start checking it out more, and I'm going to do something else going forward as well, because 7MileMan is all about service to others. And so this isn't the only challenge that we'll do. The other page that's
Alex, could be. Christmas only had 3 people the first year.
Right. Yeah. And look how many people are involved in it now.
Right.
So,
So I mean, look, man, just start off with a small tradition, man. And I think it's really nice that you're doing something like that. You're engaging others, and you're getting involved in the community, and you're sending out a rally cry, which I think it's cool, man. So good on you for taking that charge and leading that charge. It's great. Um, what let's flip it over into fatherhood. Unless you want to chat a little bit, any else in like 7 Mile Man you want to throw out there right now?
yeah. One other thing that we got with 7 Mile Man is actually got a private Facebook group that's going to start growing here in the beginning of January. I'm going to do a month-long challenge inside of 7 Mile Awakening. So it's going to be a private men's group, but it's going to be more of a workshop type group where we have things that we work on and focus on together. So it's called 7 Mile Awakening. It's a men's group only. And if the women want to do something similar, my wife just changed the name of it. It was called Modern Dea, but it's actually now Modern Lady. I don't know, Modern Lady something. I'll put it in the comments here on the video.
Hit you up. We'll hit you. Yeah, we'll hit you up for that information afterwards. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's
great. That's awesome.
That's coming up here as well. But yeah, that's that's what we're trying to do, man. Is just grow ourselves through service to others. So yeah, there's going to be a whole lot more going on with that, and so just looking forward to just continuing to grow that.
Yeah.
Hey there, sorry for this brief interruption. I want to say thank you for tuning into this podcast, and I hope that you're truly enjoying the guests that I have on today. I also want to make sure that you are aware that Fatherhood for the Rest of Us offers personal one-on-one coaching. If you are a father out there who's been afraid or don't know what the next step is to take for you and your ideal version of life, reach out to me. Let's have the conversation. We'll see if you and I are a good fit. And if you are, I just want to help you. I want to serve you and get you to where you want to go, right? I'm not trying to get you from A to Z. I just need to help you to get to your next step. And if I can help you do that, man, it's going to be amazing. And you'll see that you'll be up and running after those first couple of steps. If you are ready to take that next step, then head on over to reconstruct.brandonhanley.com and pick a time. There's a few Pines hostels available. If you don't find something that meets your timeline, reach out to me via email, brandon@fatherhoodfortherestofus.com, and let's have that conversation. We'll see if it's a good fit. I want to help you get to the level that you want to get to.
So let's flip it over into fatherhood for a little bit, brother. I know we've hit on it, here and there, to be sure. But what about let's just start off from the beginning, man. What does fatherhood mean to you? If I come up to you and just say, "Hey, Alex, tell me a little bit. What does it mean to you?"
Fatherhood to me was life-changing. And I don't think that everyone has the same reaction with fatherhood or with parenthood for that matter, and that's okay. But for me, it was this shift of I can't be the focus of everything. My wants and my needs can't be the focus of everything anymore. There are certain things I need to do to make sure that I'm okay and that I can serve my children and my wife. But you have to, in my opinion, have to let go of some of your selfish nature and some of your nature of wanting to serve yourself all the time when you have children. And honestly, it's the best gift that I could ever receive. After my daughter was born, things were very challenging. She was a colicky baby. That was very difficult. But even cooler and equally as cool was stepping into the role of father for my middle two children, my youngest daughter and oldest son, which are not mine by creation, if you will, but they are definitely my children. I am dad to these two children. And that was a powerful and kind of a different experience because all of a sudden you go from, I went from one child to three children in a blink of an eye. And it's a different experience not having been part of the birth experience, the part of the growing of the child and stepping in at 4 and 2. They were 4 and 2 when I stepped into their lives and just instantly becoming dad and growing that relationship. So Yeah, fatherhood to me is just the coolest thing, man. It's my responsibility as a father um, to help grow my children into good and decent people. There's only so much we can do, obviously, but we do our best and we're gonna make mistakes, but we definitely do our best to have our children do their best.
No, that's great. That's great. You mentioned in there that children are a gift, right? Do you want to expand on that a little bit? Because I agree, and we hear that often, but what we don't hear is why they are a gift. What we don't hear is you didn't say that they're a blessing, but we don't hear, you know, people always say that, but it takes a while, I
Yeah.
think, for it to kick in before, if it kicks in at all, right? Like you said, you realize this, and there's some people I would have to say that I know plenty of people that haven't realized this, even though their children are older. So do you mind explaining why you feel like they're a gift, a little bit outside of too, from detracting from the fact that you take the focus solely off yourself? What, a little bit deeper than that, like what that gift is?
Sure. I mean, the other aspect of that is, yes, you have to take the focus off of yourself on some things, but on the other side of that is that children are a gift because they expose our weaknesses. They expose the things that about us that maybe aren't the best version of ourselves. So while yes, you are taking the focus off yourself as far as your wants and needs, my children bring so much joy to my life, so much happiness to my life, and purpose to my life as well. But they're also watching them grow and watching them learn. Also, I think exposes some of my own weaknesses and helps to grow me in that way, because I had always been someone who was quick to anger, and that's something having children has really helped me with my patience.
Yeah.
I'm
You gotta slow down.
not
You gotta slow down a little bit with the immediate reaction sometimes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes a lot to hit my button, to set me off and flip the switch. I'm pretty easygoing. But when you have children, you can't just get mad. It doesn't work, because you first have to understand what's going on. And that doesn't always necessarily happen right away. You don't necessarily understand what's going on right away.
Nah, the children, you can come up and the reaction could be something earlier in the day and you weren't even there for it. And you just gotta kind of walk it back, and then by the time you get back to whatever even happened, everybody's calmed down and relaxed for the most part.
Yeah.
And then, like, how can you get mad? I remember we moved into a brand new house, and on the wall, and brand new house, and she's like, what do you do? That's what's going to happen if you leave some pens around and there's a white wall somewhere. It's only a matter of time.
It's the perfect canvas. I mean,
What are you going to do?
just is what it is. And yeah. What are you going to do about it? I mean, it is what it is. You get the paint, you fix it.
Yeah, not even a thing.
You-
Actually, I actually think I was glad when it happened. I was like, that's great. It finally happened. It just kind of, it finally happened. What about the relationship that you had with your father? Sounds like you got a pretty good relationship with your current father-in-law. You're working with him. What about your own father?
Man, I tell you, my father and I have always done better from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
Our relationship is always closer, I think, when we're further away. I think there's times when he and I have a lot of similarities. But my father was also one that was very quick to anger. We went through some struggles, and I'm definitely not blameless in the struggles that we've had. Things got physical between us, and it's not an abuse situation, because here I am, a teenager, and I'm coming at him because he's barking up the wrong tree at that point in time. He's yelling at me, and I'm yelling at him, and things had gotten physical between us. I certainly learned a lot from my father, and respect my father for many aspects about who he is, many struggles that he's been through personally, and growth that he's been through personally. I'll tell you one thing is that he was always there.
Okay.
A lot of people have fathers who weren't always there for them. He didn't always necessarily have the right answer, and a lot of times had the wrong answer, and the wrong approach to things. We've had an up and down relationship for sure, but he was always there. He's been a supporter of me when I'm doing right, and he's been a critic of me when I'm doing wrong. And yeah, man, our relationship is strained for sure at times, but I love and respect my father for the man who he is, and the work ethic that he has, and the convictions that he has.
Sure. So there's just some of the things that going forward that you're carrying forward from your father. You're carrying the convictions and his work ethic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I learned how to work hard, from both my parents. My mom was a PE teacher and a coach of multiple sports and stuff like that. But, as far as putting your hands in and getting dirty, doing the hard work, the handiwork, I learned that from my dad. I mean, he was up every morning at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to get ready for work, out the door by 7 o'clock, and not home until 7 or 8 at times.
Wow.
He'd just do what he needed to do to get work done. And like I said, but he always found time to be there. He may come dressed in his full work gear and stuff like that, his boots and his hats and his multiple layers, but he'd show up at my basketball game. He might look like an Eskimo because he's been out working in the cold all day, but he'd show up at my basketball game and be there to support me, and show up at my football games and be there to support me. And so that's kind of what it was. I mean, the man was always up early, always out the door or early, and home late. And I worked with him for many years. I think starting at about 10, winter break and spring break and summer break and stuff like that, I'd go and I'd get to work and go work with him. So I think there was a lot of learning about work ethic from actually being on the job site with him and not just watching him do it,
That's a great experience to be able to work alongside your father, I think. What would you say that was a great experience for you? And would you also say, what was the impact of him showing up at your games? So how important was that?
Yeah, I mean, it was important, and I guess it's one of those things that I think it's important for parents to show up at the events that their kids are taking part in, because in that point in my life, when I'm in middle school and when I'm in high school, football and basketball, those were important to me. And so the fact that, he'd leave work and come straight over there to make sure he sat down and watched me play, it was meaningful. It was important. It was important to me. As far as working with him went, the impact of working with him was cool, because I learned a lot. I also got to watch a lot of the struggles that went on there, and I'm pretty sure I was fired 2 or 3 times, and I quit maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
We had some pretty good blowouts on job sites before, so
Wow.
that was yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. I can imagine that happening though too. It's look, man, it's not easy. It's not easy. Trying to work with your children because we have expectations, right? I think we hold our own children to a higher standard than any other child, right? So I'm sure that he probably held you to a standard that was just higher, regardless of anything else. And
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
I don't think that's a terrible thing. We have that standard, and we want our children. It's funny, right? It's juxtaposed. We don't want our children to have to struggle, but we want them to be challenged, and we want them to work hard, and we want them to put forth all that effort. And I think that if we don't see them putting forth all that effort and accepting the challenges that are put in front of them, we lose our shit. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. And I don't always lose it. On there's been several occasions where, with my oldest, where it's like, I don't even understand what's happening right now. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know how to fix this or help you fix this because, like, I don't understand what this is about right now. Like how is this happening currently?
It's classic. And listen, guys, just real quick there, I want to throw out, when I say lose your shit, like even just internally, you're like, it's like your head just like, it's literally like one of those cartoons where all the gears start smoking and they just start going flying everywhere. Because I can see it happening to you too, right? You're rubbing your head and you're thinking, you're like, I don't even understand. Where are we? What just happened, right? Because you can't even fathom how. There's no way. It's like a multiverse. You're like, where did you even come from, and how did this just happen? That's funny.
Where did we get? How did this explode? Last night, here's an example. Last night, my wife late to go pick this present from her dad's house and from her grandparents' house, her grandma's house, and wrap some presents and stuff. So she's out late, but she told the kids cookies from grandma's house. Right? So here's a simple cookie, I gave the kids ice cream for dessert. They had their advent calendar chocolate. And come about 9 o'clock as I'm putting them to bed, 8:30, 9 o'clock, I tell them to brush their teeth. And they all lose it. But Mom's bringing home cookies. Yeah, but Mom's running, and we're not from you can have it. And she said that we were going to have cookies, and so I've got like 3 kids like staring at me like I'm not going to brush my teeth right now. There's a cookie coming. And I'm like, the cookie's not going to be here for an hour. We're going to bed, and you guys can have a tomorrow. And it just kept going. And I'll tell you, honestly, I'll tell you what ended it was when I finally just said, "You're not having a cookie at 10 o'clock at night." And they're all staring at me. I'm like, okay, I lost a little bit there. I'm like, is that what you guys wanted me to do? Like, and I just started laughing. I'm like, why did I have to yell? Like, what happened? We're talking about one chocolate chip cookie right now. Like, what's going on here?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, we can lose parents. Yeah.
And it's funny.
We're
it's
talking
funny
about
that,
a cookie.
too. Like it'll all melt down over the least assuming thing. The least assuming thing.
Yeah.
Now, I think we may have talked about this on your podcast, so forgive me. But bunch of readers, both you and I think most people in this personal growth space are. What is a book that outside of the Bible that is having a big impact on you and how you raise your children?
And how I raise my children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually reading. I'm kind of rereading. It's a book by Chuck Swindoll. Chuck Swindoll is a pastor, and it's about being a husband and a father. And I have it as a recommendation on my website, so you'd think the name of the book would be fresh in my head. But it's Chuck Swindoll book. I'll put the name here in the comments and get you that name.
Yeah.
But it's incredible the way it breaks things down. It also breaks things down from a biblical perspective,
Okay.
But another book that I'm reading right now that isn't necessarily helping me. It's helping me in general. So I think it is also helping me on how I treat my children. But it's called Outwitting the Devil.
Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill. And if anyone's ever read any Napoleon Hill books, this is kind of a different Napoleon Hill, if you will. I think that it's really, really, really very interesting. But talking about the topic of drifting, I can tell you've read it before, yeah?
I listened to the audio. You and I had the conversation on yours where we listened to the audio, and the person like reading,
Right,
that's
yeah.
the devil. He talks like, and it's just hilarious. Like I actually want to read it because
Now when you read it, you're going to hear it in that voice.
it's hard to take it seriously, brother. It's hard to take it seriously when you guys. I can't do it, man. I can't. I feel like.
And I can understand how putting a strange voice to that would make it difficult to read. But yeah, but he talks about the concept of drifting, and it's basically this idea of losing focus on the things that are important. And so when as far as that goes with myself and with my children, I look at that as one of the things on there is my intentionality, and losing focus of what of what the purpose is of what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to pass on to my children. So yeah, I think that book's kind of helping me in my focus with my kids. I've been reading a lot of kind of social media books recently because I'm trying to work on growing my social media. So I haven't been reading as many parenting books, but I'm always in the Bible as well. I mean, that's an important thing for me. But yeah, man, I don't know why I can't think of the name of Chuck Swindoll does a thing called Focus on the Family. And that's a radio program that he does. And so this book kind of came from some of that, but it attacks our responsibilities as a parent from the biblical perspective as well. So it's a really interesting book. It's definitely a good read and a good parenting book. I got to get my hands on what you're reading right now, though.
It's great. It's great. It's blowing my mind. I actually get the course. I'll plug it, I guess. Coursera's course. It's like just ABC parenting, and that is a free course. And it's radically it's shifting my mind. It's really everything I think you and I are doing, just at a younger level, and it's teaching you how to shape your child's life through positive reinforcement. And it's teaching that it says Dr. Kasdan, I forget the guy's first name, but it's the Kasdan method. The guy's 30 plus years of psychology in the child field, director at Yale of child psychology. It's no joke. And what's funny too is there's actual sense of humor in the book too. So I'm reading it and this guy's like, making me laugh, which is great because you need a little laugh. You need some levity as a parent, just in general, because you're like, oh my God, I gotta take care of the laundry. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Every once in a while, it's good to get a laugh out, brother. And so that book is I actually bought two of them, two books, two Kasdan books, as they're recommended by the course. It's free, dude. If you're looking for the link, if you've never checked out Coursera, check it out. I always recommend it. Nothing wrong with a little bit of free knowledge.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Kasdan. I've heard the name before. I'm not sure what the first name is there either. But what was the book you're reading right now?
Jeez,
it's like
it's like parenting, like it.
Yeah.
It's parenting. What'd you say? You've got a kid. One of yours has a defiance disorder.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's parenting the defiant child.
Yeah.
Is that what? Yeah.
Trust me, brother. Yeah. The book is like I've been implementing like some of the methods, which is just like over exaggerated praise. Even if like they just like take a walk in the right direction and following it up with a touch, like a touch on the shoulder and all this other stuff for like since I got the book 3 or 4 days, and it's really my children are already acting different.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and positive, what you just said about touch, was it? No, it was in Order of Man, on the Order of Man podcast. Ryan had a guest on that was talking about basically how to influence people when you want to influence them. And one of the important things is when you get a positive response, a positive behavior out of the person that you're trying to influence, you follow that up with a touch
Yeah.
as a following positive reinforcement. So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, right along those same concepts of kind of hacking people's minds, if you will.
Yeah, but again, for the greater good, right? Like, I don't want it just not in a vindictive way, not in a way that is like coercive to the degree of my children are going to be happy scrubbing the soles of my feet type of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
You just want well-behaved children that listen to you on the first, and it's good. The book again, Kasdan and the courses on Coursera, ABC Parenting. I'm highlighting everything in there. I'm underlining things. It's a really good book, man. Thanks for bringing it up. Now I'm just like a motor mouth about it, but what, I read it all day. These are kind of my general questions as we wind down. What when you're say 10 years from now, your children were to write you a letter thanking you, what would you want them to thank you for?
Ooh, that's a good question. Really, what I want my children to be thankful for me is that I was present in their life, that I gave them room to make their own mistakes, and was there when they did to help move them forward, and just for giving them the tools that they needed to succeed.
Those are all good. I love the giving them the room to make their mistakes, and when they make those mistakes, being there to help them forward. Do you have an example of one of those that you'd like to share, maybe?
I don't really necessarily have a good example of that in this moment, but I think that, for myself, my parents when I was younger, I didn't have room to really error correctly. So when I hit college, basically alcohol was taboo. No good, don't do it. Don't in the house. Oh yeah. Yeah. My father was a recovering
alcoholic. Did anybody
alcoholic.
drink in your house? Okay.
No,
Okay.
my father was a recovering alcoholic. He is a recovering alcoholic, I guess, if you will. He stopped drinking when my brother was like 2, and I was -2. So I never experienced him as a drinker.
Okay.
So, but because that was a problem in the house, and something that my father struggled with, it was basically, I had many uncles that are currently still alcoholics. I've got one uncle on my mom's side that drives around with a 6-pack in his truck at all times. Never less than a 6-pack. So drinking was always really taboo in the house. So when I hit college, here I am not knowing what it was, not having the room in a space to make the mistake, and then in a safer way. I hit college, and what do you mean? It's not a good idea to drink a pint and a half of Jack Daniels by yourself? That's too much. Oh, okay.
That's a bad
not a
idea.
good up and down the dorm hallways in your underwear screaming woo. That I didn't have the space at home to make that mistake, and then here I am in college making these here I am in college making these mistakes and not having them there to guide me back in the right direction. My kids are young yet. So mistakes that they make at this point are like, no, you can't hit your sister. You know what I mean? Or
right.
No, you can't lie to me. And for my children, what I do with lying is, you're more in trouble if you lie to me than you would be for telling me the truth. And so the phrase that we use is, your worst truth is better than your best lie.
Sure.
And so we give them the room to make that mistake of lying, to make the mistake of doing the thing that they shouldn't have done. and then
Sure.
we try to follow that up with, well, this is probably how we should have handled that, and here's something,
Sure.
maybe what we have done differently, and to
Right.
not get the result that you just got. So
That's awesome. That's awesome, Alex. You're, you're doing awesome stuff out there, brother. And it's always great to have these conversations with another father who is trying to, who is not even trying to, who is serving the community for the greater good, and doing it in his spare time, while being a father, while doing a side hustle, while just doing you're doing your part to make the world a better place. And I'm glad that we connected.
no, thanks, man. I just, I don't really know how we ended up getting connected. I think honestly, um, it was pretty organic. I was searching for fatherhood groups, men's groups, and I came across you, I think, that way. And we've since connected. Justin Bailey, from Code of Character. I follow a lot of what he's doing as well, and a couple of the other guys in the group I've connected, with them as well through, things that they're doing as well. And I appreciate the space that you've provided for men, and I appreciate the way you show up too, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. What was there anything maybe that we didn't touch on regarding fatherhood that you might throw out there?
Man, I think we kind of we touched on fatherhood, on every aspect that really is important to me. But I think that the one thing we didn't really talk about is accountability.
Mhm.
We talked about that in the respect of we should find ourselves accountable to something higher than ourselves. But the other
Sure.
side of accountability of taking ownership and responsibility for your actions is something that we really focus on in our house, is that
Okay.
you have to take responsibility and accountability for your actions. So if you and your sister are in a fight and in an argument, there's two people to that. So your actions and
Right.
your reactions and your emotions all played a part of that. And you have to take accountability for your side of things before you can start fixing things. And that's one approach that we take with parenting, that I don't always hear a whole lot about, but it's
Yeah,
a
that's a good one. Yeah.
relation. Yeah. It's a
I think my
relationship.
question to that would be how do you model that for your children?
Sure. The best way that it's modeled is through how I have relationships with, my wife and each of my children, and my father-in-law. And if there's an issue that comes up, the way that we try to model all of that is by taking that accountability ourselves. So if I have a disagreement with my wife, or I have a disagreement with one of the kids, I take responsibility for my part of that. Hey, listen, I reacted this way, or hey, I said this, and that was something I shouldn't have said, or I did this, and this was something I shouldn't have done. And I take responsibility for that, and I take responsibility for my reaction to what you did, and my words to what you did, and I apologize for that. And let's figure this out together.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I think that it's important that we figure out a way to model that behavior, right? And I think that what's also great is that you're not a dad or a father who's out there saying, um, you know, do as I say, not as I do, right? And you're trying to model again. I think we talked a little bit about this at the beginning. It's your audio and your video match, and I think that is important for our children to see, because essentially, whether or not they want to, they're gonna grow up to be like us. Somebody did a study, and it shows that you've pretty much already turned into your parents by the time you're 38, right? So just know that we're not making carbon copies, but we kind of are. And the sooner that we can change our imprint and what we're imprinting onto our child, the better. I don't feel like there's ever a time. I think you mentioned, you probably don't want your child calling you when you're 90, but there's never a time, I believe, as I watched my grandfather as he was always imparting wisdom for until the day he passed,
Yeah.
to his children, to his grandchildren, to me, man. I love them. So I don't think that there's ever a time when we ever lose that capability of influencing our family and our children, especially, and creating that, continuing that copy.
Oh yeah, and what I meant by that is I don't want my kids calling me when I'm 90 asking me how to fix something. If my kids want to call me advice when I'm 90, by all means, you know. I figure by that time I'm gonna have a lot of awesome advice to give. So
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Alex, dude, thank you for being on. Thank you for all, again, the work that you are doing to and for the community. And keep it up, brother.
thanks, man. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate appreciate it. It's my first time being a guest on somebody else's podcast. So hope to have many more of these.
Right on. You'll have many more, brother.